resolution to the 911 consolidation, and we may also get into further discussion of local government efficiency, among other issues. But last week, Mayor Tom Henry spoke to us, and he clearly stated that the city's finances and the services they fund are his top concern. I know they're mine and yours as well. So I'm asking the Finance Committee members, Glenn Hines and Liz Brown, to begin meeting with the administration as soon as possible to begin laying the groundwork for the 2010 budget. Next fall will be here before we know it. If we begin planning now, we can have a well-honed and vetted budget to present to the community, demonstrating how the council and administration can work together for the benefit of all citizens. That concludes my comments. Glenn?
Yeah, I would just, as co-chair, I think this is an excellent idea. I think the challenge, as you've already said, specifically as it relates to how do we, with our fiduciary responsibility, best manage taxpayers' dollars. Not a day could be wasted, and probably the reason why you had such a short meeting today is so that we can go and meet with some of the administrators. So that we can
glad you figured that out.
Process. Right. But a couple other things specifically as it relates to that long laundry list of challenges that we'll have before us for this year. I think I want to first of all, and I believe it was Councilman Harper who first made the initiative to ask for a monthly finance report from this administration. I think that's a superior idea so that we can get a handle on where we are year to date on a monthly, quarterly, mid-year basis on our finances. So hopefully when that bill comes before us, it will pass with flying colors, because it looks like it's the right direction that we need to be going in to be as responsible as we can be. And secondly, real quickly, I stopped by the African American Museum to buy a table for next week, and I heard that it's being canceled. The inaugural ball at the Grand Wayne will not be held. That was as of 4:30 today. So I don't know if they would change it, but if in fact you were planning on going to that event, I talked to Ms. Hansted personally, and they had projected a certain number and did not get that number. There's other events throughout the city, but I just wanted those individuals that were anticipating going to that event, that is in fact canceled.
Anyone else would like to speak? Councilwoman Brown?
I echo Councilman Hines and Councilman Smith's remarks. I don't think we can start too soon to be fiscally responsible this upcoming year, regardless of what the future holds in terms of stimulus monies and whatnot. But I would like to go beyond what we've done in the past. I know Councilman Harper has mentioned this, even though there are certain aspects of the budget which we don't have voting authority over. I think that it would be prudent and responsible of us to look at all aspects of the budget, particularly as I sat on the Clean Rivers Task Force and we've talked about sewer rates. That's something we don't vote on, but I know that we would vote on the rate itself. We don't vote on the city utilities budget, just as an example. And I think the citizens would want to make sure that every nook and cranny in this building, so to speak, has been looked at before we vote for any increases anywhere, and that goes for everything, which is why I voted against the parking amnesty bill tonight. I know it probably looks rather curmudgeonly and Ebenezer Scrooge-like, but the reason is I think we need to do a better job of looking at all of our budgets. That particular department raises and spends over $500,000, not in property tax dollars. Those are revenues from fines and tickets and things like that. In terms of the dollars that go into the city's general fund, after budget, it's only about $35,000 for last year. So that's after the budget. Not
no.
When you go over budget.
Look at your figures that I gave you today.
I did. I did the math. If your budget is 580 and you only spend 500, 80,000 goes back to the city's general fund. After that, the 610 you brought in, 30,000 is ticket revenues. My point is, that's not the issue, it's not the math. My point is that all of these departments should be looked at, whether it's city utilities, whether it's parking, and I think the point is, we want to make sure we have a reason for the department, we have a reason for why we raise rates, we have a reason for why we're raising ticket prices, if we're going to raise the parking ticket prices, and why we're enforcing ticket violations. We're going to have the same issue coming up next week, or 2 weeks, when we have the public hearing on the new code. In commercial code, there is an amendment to add a position in the city, a hearing officer, to look over neighborhood and commercial code violations, because those departments also don't feel that they are getting the compliance through the magistrate, the court system. Again, I want to look at all those things. Do we want to raise revenue? Should we be raising revenue? Are we using our staff and our legal department, for example, wisely when they have to go and enforce those if we don't have a great success rate? That's what I'd like to see. I want to see us have no sacred cows, everything's wide open, so that we know every dollar that we can get out of this community, that we should be getting out of this community to better serve the community, is being spent appropriately. And if we don't have a good reason, whether it's raising sewer rates or raising any kind of revenue, then we need to know why we're doing it. And if we don't have a good reason, then we shouldn't do it.
Anyone else?
Sure. On the subject of the year's finances and study that's coming up, I'll say what I said earlier during the budget hearings from last year. I think we should also fold into that calculus the issue of bonds that we issue. Bonds there's very expensive borrowing costs involved, and I think the borrowing costs for this committee should be kept to a practical amount.
Karen Golden.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank a couple of groups of city employees. The first is the Fort Wayne Police Department. There was a very tragic incident in the 2nd District in the northeast part of town a week and a half ago that, due to the action of police officers, prevented what I think would have been a much worse tragedy and perhaps even fires and so forth in the neighborhood. It certainly saved lives through the actions of the police department. And the second are the street department workers who are out salting and skimming and plowing and patching and everything else, often in relatively unpleasant conditions, at least conditions that I'm glad I'm not out in the middle of the night. And it's work that we all take for granted, but we very much appreciate it. And so, particularly in a year where we were not able to give our employees raises, which was a decision that I completely agreed with, but it's still an unfortunate decision we've had to have made. I just wanted to thank those two groups of folks specifically.
Well, it sure sounds like we're going to keep the city controller and the division and department heads on their toes in the coming months as we look forward to the budget. I'd like to conclude by saying that come prepared to council next week to make our council appointments for 2009 to the various citizen boards that we appoint citizens to. We will begin that process next week. So Sandy passed out a list to us all so you can have
3
those.
times.
Pardon?
3 times.
3 times? Well, 3rd time is the charm. So we'll do that next week.